All praises, glory, and honor to Yahawah, Bahasham, Yahawashi, Bahasham, Rakak, Wadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of GMS. Salutations to my fellow laborers pushing this truth. And shalom to the saints. Second Corinthians 2:11. We are not ignorant of Satan's devices, lest he should get an advantage of us. In Mexico, they are going to and are in the process of requiring everyone who has a mobile phone, cell phone, to submit biometric identification, fingerprints, facial scans, and iris scans, so that they can tie your body to a unique identifier that will be used to link all of your data to a centralized system. This is the centralized system that they're going to use to identify members of the beast and those who receive his mark. Okay? Communication is going to be leveraged in order to extract your compliance. Like we've said in previous lessons, it's nothing new. Because they know that people are separated throughout the earth in terms of family units, mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, sometimes husbands, wives, children. And so, in an increasingly volatile world where things are just going wrong, right? It's going to be increasingly important to be able to just send a text or receive a phone call or have a video chat with your loved ones, just to know that they're okay, And so if you now have to submit your biometric data just to have a phone, I can see many people capitulating and even doing other stuff in order to keep in contact with your loved ones. Matthew 10:37 or thereabouts comes to mind, where it says, whosoever loveth father or mother, brother or sister, children, more than me is not worthy of me. And those types of scriptures that, say you have to hate your father, hate your mother in order to be a follower or a disciple of Yahawashi. Those precepts didn't have much practical meaning. For the past hundreds of years, man. Of course, when Yahawashi was on the scene, in order to qualify to be his disciple, you had to leave everything. Your job, your career, your home, your loved ones, You had to drop everything to follow him. But ever since Yahawashi conquered death and sin to pay our ransom so that we might live again and more abundantly, you didn't have to leave off from everything in order to follow him. You could, be a weekend warrior. But like we always say in these lessons, the time is coming now where you are going to have to hate your father and hate your mother and your brother and your sister. And it doesn't mean wish evil things to come upon them. It just means you're going to have to put them second to the Most High and His only begotten Son. You're going to have to put yourself second, because it says, whosoever loveth his life shall lose it, but he who giveth it up for righteousness' sake, the same shall take it up again, or, roughly paraphrasing. That might be in Matthew 16:25 or Luke 12:25, somewhere about there. So they are going to require biometric digital identification in order to participate in society. Right now, you can't leave the Belizean borders, whether it's to go to Mexico or to go to Guatemala or, go anywhere outside the country legally without, if I'm not mistaken, submitting your biometrics, whether it be fingerprints or facial scans or whatever the case may be. But for this lesson, I want to focus in on communications. So you're not going to be able to communicate. You're not going to be able to be on the internet, because most people who access the internet do so via a cell phone. A lot fewer people actually use laptops, and even fewer people use desktops. People typically access the internet via their cell phone. So you're not going to be able to access the internet unless you submit your body to these people, huh? And I don't think I'm willing to do that. I don't think I am willing to do that. Amos 8:11 says that a famine is coming. Not a famine of bread or of water, but of hearing the word of the Most High. And, my ministry might just come to an end if they say, well, you gotta submit your biometrics. I think that's very degrading, actually, to have to submit your fingerprints and your iris scan, your palm prints and your facial scan. That, to me, is very degrading. That's something that you do, or you used to do, to criminals, Take a mug shot from the front, take a mug shot from the side, fingerprints, blood sample, That's degrading, man. Especially knowing that it's the beast that you are submitting this information to. You understand? And it's a slippery slope. Once you begin to capitulate and to allow these people to have access to you like that and store these biometric markers on you, they could use that. They could use that information to just plant all kinds of evidence, man. Utilize artificial intelligence to make up all kinds of scenarios and furnish video evidence and all kinds of stuff with your DNA at a site or whatever the case may be to frame you. It's all kinds of possibilities that these people can manufacture, man, against you. Now might be a good time to look into purchasing a satellite phone. Satellite phone, I think the cheapest one is about $400 or $500. be able to connect you to anyone else who has a phone. I don't even think the person that you contact with your satellite phone has to have a satellite phone. I think you can contact anyone with a phone once you have a satellite phone. You know, so it might be a good investment, you know, at such time. The prices range from $500 or so to over $1,000, depending on what kind of coverage you need, you know. If you want coverage of the whole planet, or as much of the planet as possible, or if you just need access to North America, the Caribbean, you know, Central America. Different options out there, you know. It might be a good investment just to be able to have a little more freedom, have a little more options to refuse to bow down to the beast. You know, scripture says that a prudent man foreseeth the evil and hideth himself. Ultimately, we know that we are going to have to give up being able to communicate with our family members, because they're going to leverage that ultimately to cause you to receive a mark in your right hand, or your power hand, or your dexterous hand. You know, most people have the right hand as their hand that is most dexterous. Some fewer people are ambidextrous, which means they can do things with both hands. You know, but when it says right hand, it just means your power hand, so it could be your left hand. You know, but we want to resist the devil and he will flee from you. Resist these encroachments on our freedom as much as is possible. You know, because you're just increasing your chances of being able to stand, like it says in, I think it's Ephesians 6:13, having done all to stand. Now we know that it's the Most High who is going to help us to stand, and without his help we're not going to be able to stand. But wisdom and knowledge shall be our stability, and you need to be stable in order to stand, or else you're going to lose your balance. So if the wisdom and knowledge is understanding that Satan's devices are going to be leveraged against you, and communications, or the tools of communication, are going to be used to control you, and it's just common sense to try and circumvent that so that you can exist with communication for a little bit longer before they say, well, all right, well, you know, we're gonna disable the satellite phones now. You know, we're gonna disable the internet for all those users who refuse to accept this digital identity. You know, having access to the internet goes into having access to your cell phone, because yeah, you might have a laptop, but sooner or later they're gonna say, all right, anyone who is accessing the internet also has to submit your biometric data, or else you can't access the internet, you know, to verify your age so that you can you know, protect children and all this stuff, as if they give a damn about the children, you know. So I'm just blowing the trumpet, you know, letting people know that, you know, the time is coming when you're not going to be able to communicate with your loved ones with the same ease and freedom as you do now. And so if you can, do something about it, you know. Giving all praises, glory, and honor to Yahawah, Bahasham, Yahawashi, Bahasham, Rakah.